There are really two camps. There are the Frost fans, the Frost admirers, that still would like to perpetuate the mystique of Robert Frost, or the myth of Robert Frost, as a very down-to-earth, a very healthy-minded, very sane, very kind, sort of grandfatherly New England character. There are others who say, well, no, there's a darker Robert Frost. It's one of the things that I got quite interested in, partly because I live in Virginia. He was obsessed with his high school girlfriend. He wanted to get married to his high school girlfriend, who went off to St. Lawrence University in upper state New York. This was Eleanor White. She wanted to get a college education. She wanted to get a BA. Finally, he decided the best way to get her to leave college and get married was to give her a gift of his first poems. Anyhow, he knocked on the door. Eleanor came to the door. He presented his gift of poetry, and then he said he wanted to talk. And Eleanor knew what he was going to talk about, basically shut the door in his face. And he was devastated. So what did he do? He got on a train, he went home, he took a train to New York, he took a steamship to Norfolk, Virginia, and I maintain that he was going to end his life. And that's what he said when he was candid in interviews. He said he wanted to put an end to his life in the Great Dismal Swamp. Now, last summer with my son, I went to the Great Dismal Swamp and I traced part of his route. I went with two kayaks. My son was in a kayak, I was in a kayak, and we paddled along, or we paddled in a canal by the canal road that he took. As it was interesting to me that this episode haunted Frost for his entire life. One of his last poems that he wrote near the end of his life, and one of the longest poems he wrote, was called Kitty Hawk. And it was, the first part was all about being rejected by Eleanor, going to the Great Dismal Swamp. There are a lot of references in the poem, kind of literary references to Shakespeare and suicide. There's a lot of suicide in Shakespeare's plays. I'm writing about facets of Frost that perhaps weren't all that well known, that were touched on. But you look at the poetry. There's a lot of darkness in the poetry that comes out of Frost's depression.